main concept is to start with your highest part, and it's easy with a mandala because with a mandala, your highest part is normally your center. So we're going to start with the center, little circle, and then work our way out, ring by ring going around. But it's important for you to first finish the ring that you're busy with before continuing with the next one, because you cannot go back and tidy up anything afterwards. Only once you filled it with beeswax or with whatever medium you're going to fill with. I'm going to fill with beeswax, so I've already filled that other one, and then I'll show you how we tidy up and neaten again afterwards. So we're going to start now with the central circle, the smallest one, and we're going to lift it up from the front. Then we're going to do the outer one, and then before we do this last ring, we're going to add these little details. We need to add the details before we can lift it up, but we'll get to that now. So on our lino sheet, using our metal ball tool, I've got my pewter face up, which should be nice and flat. And then I'm going to use some baby oil. Not too much, it should just be nice and lubricated. And then we're going to use our 0.5 millimeter ball tool. And with a hard pressure, I'm going to draw that first circle. And try to do this in one line, because every time you stop and lift it up, there's a little bump going to form. So you want to try and do this in one smooth motion with one even pressure. I'm going to remove my lino sheet and I'm going to work on my hard surface. I'm still on the front of my pewter, and I'm going to use my paper stump at a flat angle, and I'm going to flatten towards that circle. So I'm starting a little bit away and I'm flattening towards that circle, and you can see as you flatten, it starts pushing up that circle in the center. And remember that your pewter is not fixed to your table, so turn it around as you need to go around your design. So I'm working around it with my tip of my paper towards my design. And then once I've got everything flat around, I can use the Teflon tool and flatten right up against. And you want to do this right up against your design. Don't push over your design, because then we need to lift it up again. So I'm going straight up against my design, turning my pewter as I go. And then I take my metal ball tool and I just tidy up the edge. So this has got a little bit of a height now, which is already more than enough for me, but I would like to get it a little bit higher, but very little. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on our soft surface now, which is the liner, the felt layers. Turn our pewter upside down so that we're working from the back. And I'm going to use my paper stump, and you can use one with a flatter point like this, not with a sharp point like that, because then you're going to make grooves on the inside. And you can use a soft pressure. A little bit of height goes a long way. I always tell the students that you can always add some more height, but you cannot remove the height. So we add a little bit at a time from the back. We turn it over, and now we need to flatten again. So I take my paper stump, and again I flatten towards my design so that I push all of that extra height into that design. Then I need to use the Teflon tool, and I need to define around. Then the metal ball tool, and I need to tidy it up. Okay, so that's the first little central piece done. So now we can start with the next ring. So we go back onto our lino sheet. We're still working from the front. And remember, every time that you pick up your pewter, you're bending it. So always make sure that your pewter is flat before you go on. So now we can do the next ring. Again, I'm working from the front of my pewter on my lino sheet, and I'm using the 0.5 millimeter ball tool. And with a hard pressure, I'm going to draw in that second circle. Again, I'm going to try and do this in one go and with one even pressure. I'm going to remove the lino sheet. I work on my hard surface with my paper stump. I'm going to flatten towards my design. You want to get up as close as possible without destroying the design, and then take your Teflon tool and we're going to flatten straight up against the edge of my raised area. And then I'm going to take the ball tool and I'm going to define that edge before I continue with the next step. So that's the first two rings, and I'm happy with that height. I don't want to make it any higher than it is. So I'm not going to lift that up from the front or from the back. If you want to, and you're not happy with your height that you achieved, then you can add it to your felt. Turn it upside down, and with a very thin point, add some extra height to that ring. I don't want to do it. I'm happy with the height that I achieved, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. So if you did add some extra height, remember that you have to turn it back to the front on the hard surface and then flatten your edges again before continuing with the next step. Okay, so my pewter is face up again. I'm on my semi-soft surface and I'm going to add these little dots now. So you can either add them from the front or you can add them from the back. I did in the first design, I added the little dots from the back and I just used a normal ball and cup tool to add them from the back. For this design, I'm going to do it a bit differently. I'm going to add it from the front. So I'm working on my lino sheet and I'm going to use the bigger ball tool that's on the other side, which is I think the 1 millimeter. And with a hard pressure, not too hard because I don't want to press straight through my pewter. I'm just going to press down. I'm going to do on this one. I'm just going to press down and slightly curve so I get a little bit of an indent. And I'm going to do all of them going around. So this is a medium pressure that I'm using now. And I'm working on the front of my pewter on the lino sheet. And I'm just adding little dots. That's going to be downwards, not upwards. So I need to do this before I can lift this up. I can't do this after I've lifted up that circle. Now I can lift up that second circle or the third circle. And I'm working on the front of my pewter on my lino sheet. I'm going to use the small 0.5 millimeter ball tool. And again, same principle, one even pressure, draw the outline. Try and do this in one go. Now, if you cannot do this in one smooth motion, if you have to pick up your hand, always start a little bit further away from where you stopped. So let's say if I stopped here and then I have to continue again, I would start at the back here, because you start with a lighter pressure and then you move on. So I would start there, and then once I get there, even out my pressure and then move on with the line. You need to remove your lino sheet, and then we need to flatten with the paper stump. So we're flattening with the paper stump at a short angle, and we're flattening towards our design, and you can see how much height I'm pushing into that design. If you don't get a lot of height pushed into your design, then you need to press a little bit harder on your lino sheet. So if you don't have a lino sheet, you can also use a stack of papers, old paper, or a magazine. That also works. It doesn't work quite as well as the lino, but it's an alternative option if you can't find lino. So I'm working with my Teflon tool on my hard surface from the front of my pewter, and I'm tidying up the surrounding edge just to remove any of the bubbles. And then I need to define. Okay, so I'm quite happy with the height that I've got in my first 3 pieces there. I can now move on to the next part.